Wind came off the ridge mean and thin, rattling Stack's shutters. I was there for a pull horse, not company. Jace Holloway of Cotton Rock. Winter had trimmed my hay to nubs and pushed the place towards the block. Orville Stack led me out back to a swayback sorrel and 2 bays. "Not much," he said. "Steady'll do," I answered. I turned to go and saw a stall that didn't belong with horses. A woman stood there with her ankle looped to a split post by a short chain. No lock, just the kind of hitch a man ties on a thing he figures won't try. Coat like a feed sack, dress ragged, legs winter blue. She kept her head down till my boots creaked near. Gray eyes lifted steady, her voice came thin. "Don't buy the horse," she said. "Buy me. I can work, I won't run." Orville spat. "She ain't for sale. Belongs to a freight fella down the street. Writ and whiskey say so. Said he'd fetch her in 3 days. Been 6. I touched the chain. It moved easy. "You could have walked," I said. "Walked to where?" she asked. I had come for an animal. I was looking at a person. "What's your name?" "Wren Talbot." "Jace," I said. "You hungry?" She didn't answer, but hunger answered for her. I faced Orville. "Price on the sorrel?" 20. "And the cost to cut that chain and forget you tied it?" I slid my father's Winchester from its scabbard and set it on the plank, brass worn smooth by men I loved. I added a seed sack and 2 coils of wire. "This for the sorrel," I said, "and for your memory, so it never says you sold a person. I don't buy people." His jaw worked. He cut the rope and looked away. "Take her," he muttered, "and go." I held out a hand. Wren set her fingers in mine, light but decided. We walked past a stack of crates. A red wax seal showed RK with a crooked 27. Orville saw me see it and turned his face. Outside, the light had a pewter cast. I set Wren on the sled, tucked a blanket over her knees, and hitched the sorrel for the slow road home. High Creek holds weather like a grudge. We didn't talk. Talk asks for answers a man hasn't earned. At Cotton Rock, I opened the door and stood aside. "House rule," I said. 2 beds. 2 doors that open when you want. 1 truth carved over the lintel. No one owns anyone. She stepped in careful, eyes taking the stove, shelves, plain cot, and an extra bed with a folded quilt. I set beans to boil with slivers of salt pork. When I slid her a bowl, she held the spoon like it might strike. "You can rest without telling me a thing," I said. "Work comes when you're ready. Words too." Her gaze lifted. "Why me?" "Because you're not done being alive," I said. She ate like a person memorizing taste in case it left. Night leaned on the roof. I hung a bell on the porch post and showed her the pull. 2 short, 1 long. "Neighbors know it," I said. "Sheriff, too, means help." "I don't bring trouble," she murmured. "Trouble rides its own horse," I said. "If it comes, we'll treat it like weather, name it, and outlast it." She chose the far bed, boots tucked beneath, back to the wall in the way of folks who've learned caution the hard way. I banked the fire and sat the chair between the beds. On shelf lay a wood comb carved with a wild rose. I set it near her pillow and left it without comment. Toward dawn, the stove ticked as iron cooled. In the hush, I heard her whisper, "I won't belong to him no more." "No," I said to the room. "Not here." Wind slipped along the eaves now, quiet. The bell on the porch did not move. In that stillness, Cotton Rock made room for 2 lives not yet willing to quit. Morning came lean. I put coffee on, frost dull on the rail, the bell rope still, 2 short, 1 long sleeping in its coil. Wren sat up slow, boots close, eyes measuring a room that had not moved in the night. "Coffee?" I asked. She nodded. "Please." All right. We ate beans and biscuits without talk. When she set the spoon down, she squared it with the bowl, as if order could hold back what life had scattered. "Light work," I said. "Pump gasket, torn harness." "I can sew." I guessed. We stripped the pump, soaked the leather ring, dried it by the stove. Her hands found the rhythm of tools without coaching. On the trace, her stitches were small and true. She did not say who taught her. I did not ask. A wagon rattled the road near noon. A drunk laugh carried thin. Wren went still, chin down. I set my awl aside. Door stays shut, I said. If trouble comes, we ring. Nobody crosses this lintel uninvited. She let her breath out. Some folks write their coming on paper, she said. Not a sheriff's, a saloon man's. Debt paper? The kind that lists corn, salt, and people. Corner clipped like a V so it can be traded along. Who sells it? She looked toward town and away. Men who count women cheaper than freight. We patched the harness and hung it. I showed her the toolbox. She put each piece back twice over, steadying herself by straight lines. I've seen colts calm if the corral is wide enough to turn in. People aren't much different. Toward evening, the wind leaned off the ridge. I gave her the wild rose comb. She weighed it, then slipped it in her hair. It held. Thank you, she said. It's only a comb. It's not, she said, and left it there. She learned the bell pull. 2 short, 1 long, till it rang the same each time. After, she stood with both palms on the porch rail, as if the wood itself could vouch for us. Night came even. We ate potatoes and onion. She mended her coat and hummed low. I wrote a list. Posts, 6 pennies, salt, lamp wicks. Before bed, I said, if you wake and need air, step out, leave the latch. Nothing here locks against you. Her eyes shone, not flooded. That's new, she said. Get used to new. It's our feed this winter. She took the far bed, boots at the wall, a small knife wrapped in cloth under her pillow. Prudence, not threat. I sat the chair between the beds. The room kept its peace. Past midnight the door eased and the rope moved once, soft as a cat's breath. I did not rise. Minutes later the latch settled and quiet sat back down. Gray light found me at the bucket. The yard wore a thin crust where melt had set. I saw hoof marks pacing the fence, a slow circle as if a rider thought his thoughts where we couldn't hear. Left front chipped. Each print made a small comma. I followed it to the corner post. The top rail shined where a sleeve had leaned. I measured the height with my eye and looked toward Cedar Bluff. Wren stepped into the doorway, coat on, the comb catching a sliver of morning. Trouble? She asked. Just someone without manners. Will he come back? Men who circle a place usually do. She read the lintel. No one owns anyone, moving her lips like tasting each word. True things ought to be carved, she said. They take time to sink. She lifted the rope and gave it voice. 2 short, 1 long, clean and sure. Then let it ring, she said. I looked once more at the tracks and felt the day pull tight, like a cinch before a ride. Whoever made that circle had time in his pocket and a notion to spend it here. We'd see which wore out first, his patience or our porch. The day went gray by noon, sky hammered flat like tin, cold bit through gloves. I checked the north fence while Wren cut a feed sack to an apron and sorted nails by size. We worked quiet. Wind dropped sudden off the rim. 1 slap and the barn roof lifted at a corner. The bay yearling panicked, blew the tie ring and shot for the willows. I reached for the door, but Wren was already through it, coat flaring, boots left under her bed. Barefoot on crusted snow, she ran like a small fire thrown by the wind. Wren! I called. She didn't turn. The colt thrashed into a wash, snagging a foreleg in twisted roots. Wren slid down, hands out. Easy, boy, she breathed, low and steady. Branches whipped her calves. She found the jammed hoof. Pride, whispered again. Took a kick on the hip that would have folded most men, and stayed till the leg came free. I got there with a lead rope. Wren pressed her cheek to the colt's neck. The animal shivered, then let me halter it. "Walk him slow," she said. She tried to stand and went white. Snow cut into her feet. I scooped her up and carried her to the porch. The bell rope brushed my shoulder. It didn't ring. Inside, I piled quilts on the cot, set water on. The storm hammered the roof till dark. Wren burned hot. I wrapped her in dry flannel, brewed willow bark and pennyroyal, cooled cloths at the pump, and counted breaths one at a time. She dreamed and thrashed without sound. The wild rose comb slid from her hair and lay like a small boat on the blanket. Near midnight she whispered, "Don't knock with his key. Don't let him use the paper." I leaned close. "Whose key?" "Fever is a door with its own guard." She said no more. By morning the wind had worn itself out. I stoked the stove and stepped to the porch. On the top rail, a drop of blood dried to rust. Below the corner post, a heel had slid on ice and cut a lazy S. I looked toward town and thought of men who circle like coyotes. Doc May Parrish came at noon, small in a big coat. "Fever?" she asked. "Hard." She cleaned Wren's feet, checked the hip bruise, made notes neat as a ledger, and left a bottle that smelled like wintergreen. "She's tough," Doc said. "Sometimes tough folks break quiet. Keep the room easy, your voice low." She said something about a key, I told her, and paper. "Men like Royce carry both," Doc said. "Keys to doors they don't own. Paper to pretend they do." She touched the lintel carving. "Make sure that sign is true every day." Night came long but shorter than the first. Toward dawn the fever eased. Wren's breath evened. When her eyes opened, they were clear and old. "Why am I here?" she asked, voice rough. "Same reason as the first night," I said. "You're not done being alive." She turned her face and cried without sound. In time she slept again, and this sleep belonged to healing. I went out to check the colt and the roof. The bay stood right enough, stiff, chewing hay like he invented it. At the step I saw something winking under chaff. "Half a spur," Rowell snapped, strap gone. I held it in my palm. Notched brass, cheap, a nick that matched the height of our corner rail. A rider had watched close enough to lean and bleed on our wood. He'd turned in the slick and kicked free a truth he hadn't meant to give. I slid the broken spur into my pocket and looked toward town. Clouds pulled apart, and one narrow bar of light lay down on the bell rope. Two short, one long. If trouble had a name, we'd ring it when the time came. For now, the house was quiet, and quiet was a thing to guard. By noon, the snow held like dull glass. I walked the fence with the broken spur in my pocket. A rider came to the gate, hat low, coat smelling of town. He raised a folded sheet sealed in red wax. "Writ," he said. I didn't take it. "From whose hand?" "Royce Kincannon's man, with a district stamp." Wren stood inside the door. Her face went pale at the red. I pinched the sheet and read neat lies. Debts, transport, the letters RK with a crooked 27. The top corner was clipped to a V. "Who signed?" He named a judge, dead 2 winters. "Then it's a ghost stamp," I said. "Nobody here is property." He saw the porch sign and rode off. I took Wren to Cedar Bluff. Sheriff Jed Harmon sat at his desk, pipe cold. I set the paper down. He thumbed the V-cut. "Paper ain't law till a living officer meets it with living proof. I need ledger, witnesses, a link. Without that, it's a saloon trick." "It keeps showing," I said. "RK 27. Jed nodded. "Some men mark their sins the way ranches mark calves." We crossed to the telegraph. Sadie Crowell leaned over her counter, sleeves rolled. "Sadie," I said, "what rides with RK?" She slid a log forward. "This string, RK 27, bounces from Royce's office to Stacks and back. Dates match freight loads and bar tabs." She lowered her voice. He books folks like sugar, different rate, same code. She tore a slip. Time stamps if Jed asks when. Wren touched the page. Do you get copies with the clipped corner? Sadie shook her head. That cut ain't a wire thing. That's a man with scissors and a habit. Deputy Neil Tanner stood in the doorway like a post no one asked for. Careful where you stick your hands, Holloway, he said. Royce runs deep. The last man who tugged his line drowned in debt. Men drown in shallow water too, I said. He looked at Wren. You set this rolling? Her voice held steady. He said it when he wrote my name as an item. Neil's face didn't move. He walked on. We cut to the livery. Widow Ruth McCrae kept her yard neat and her mouth discreet. She set tea and a plate of dry snaps. We're after a ledger, I said. Old freight notes might be torn. Ruth studied us. Old Zeb Packer drove crates for Royce till his mule quit. Said the man keeps a daybook wherever he cheats. Zeb bunked here. If a page lived, he hid it. She tapped the third drawer. Blue paint on the lip. Wren slid it open. Under lamp wicks and rivets lay a narrow book. 2 edges chewed by damp, a corner gone like a bite. Numbers ran tight, initials curled. 1 page stamped red, RK27. Zeb left it, Ruth said. Said a porch would need it more than a shelf. I turned the book. The tear matched the Ritz V. Wren traced the cut. Orville clips twine on a nail head, she said. Leaves a nick like this. He clipped that corner, too. He's the hinge between Royce and the paper. Ruth's eyes hardened. He sold a lot of things, memory among them. We stepped out as the light failed. Wind eased. 1 cottonwood leaf rattled. I stowed the ledger in my saddlebag and we rode home, slow. The bell rope hung quiet. I set the ledger on the table and a flat stone on top. Wren stood under the lintel and read the carving like a creed. Paper talks when no one checks it, she said. Tomorrow we talk louder, I told her. Witnesses, the sheriff, and a broken spur for a tongue. Night laid a lid on the place. I woke to a horse turning a patient circle at our fence. The bell line trembled, then settled. Dawn was not yet through the cracks. We had the start of a chain. Now we had to pull till the length came free. At dawn, I let the bell rope rest in my hand and laid it back down. Wren read the lintel like a new creed. Ledger slept under a stone. The broken spur rode my pocket. By mid-morning, 2 riders dusted the road. Bo Randall with a hard grin. Ike Travers narrow as a picket. They reined at the gate without leave. Bo tipped his chin. We're here for the woman. Written whiskey say she's ours. I stood in the doorway, rifle low, muzzle in dirt. No one crosses this threshold uninvited. Read the sign. Ike squinted. This gate ain't a marketplace for souls. Big talk for a man short on friends. Friends are closer than you think, I said, and pulled the bell. 2 short, 1 long. Bo laughed. When Royce comes, he'll bring district paper sharp enough to shave. Bring a living judge, I answered. The last signature you used is 2 winters gone. His smile flattened. He nudged his horse to the rail and leaned on it. She belongs to a debt, he said. You know prices, I told him. You don't know value. Wren stood where he could see her, but not reach. I work for myself, she said. Tell Royce his numbers won't add me again. Boot heels hit the lane. Hank Bowers, the DeLaceys, Widow Ruth with a shotgun. Sheriff Jed Harmon came through them, coat unhurried, eyes clear. Morning, Jed said. What's the fuss? Bo raised a folded sheet. Jed read it, tapped the V-cut. Ghost ink, no weight. Ike tried to bluff. We got marks enough besides ink. Like this, I said, and raised the broken spur. Lose anything? Bo's hand flew to his heel. The mate rattled rowel whole. Strap scar fresh where a twin had torn loose. Jed's gaze slid from boot to rail to scuff in frozen mud, then back to Bo. He didn't grin. He just saw it and filed it. "Step off my rail," I told Bo. "You're bleeding on it again." He looked down and swore. Wren touched the writ. "See the red fibers, Orville clips twine with a nick in his nail. That cut matches his bench." Jed nodded once. "Stack's post to Royce to you two. That's a line I can ride." Ike's mouth went thin. "You'd stake a case on string?" "I'd stake it on string, a cut, a spur, a ledger, and 6 neighbors," Jed said. "All I need now is time." Bo spat. "You got 3 days. Royce will bring district paper and men to read it to you." 3 days works, Jed said. He handed the false writ back like a snake by the tail. Bo stuffed it away and put a boot in the stirrup. I put a round into the post left of his knee. Wood jumped. Silence fell. "That's line," I said. "Don't cross it." Pride fought sense. Sense won. Bo swung up slow. "We ain't done," he said. "No," I said. "You just started telling the truth." They turned out. The yard grew bigger when they were gone. Jed tucked his hands in his pockets. "You're steady," he said. "Will 3 days be enough?" "Depends what Ruth, Sadie, and Zeb can recall in front of me," he said. "Bring me the page with the bite out. Keep the bell handy." Neighbors drifted off with nods. Ruth set a loaf on the rail like payment for calm. Wren let the rope hum once, soft as a promise kept. We spread the ledger and marked places where codes and dates met. Afternoon thinned. I could feel Royce measuring us from his office, weighing how much tin to bend a porch. At dusk, I lettered a plank and nailed it under the first sign, "No trespass beyond this step." Wren held the lantern, steady as bedrock. 3 days, she said. "We've lived through worse," I told her. "Then we'll live through this." The bell was quiet, but every board on that porch heard what we meant. Indeed, day broke thin and honest. Snow held a crust you could read like script. We worked steady, talking only when a word earned its keep. Wren moved like a cat learning a room, testing corners, mapping light. She set the bay's bit without fuss. The colt blew once and settled. Her hands never hurried. When the bridle lay right, she smiled before she knew it, small as a match head, warm enough for the yard. "Good," I said. "Feels like I remember how," she answered. By noon, we'd hung a gate square and rasped iron smooth. I hitched the sorrel. Wren rode along, hair caught by the wild rose comb. Cedar Bluff wore winter dust and coal smoke. Stack's shutters blinked like a guilty eye. We started at the telegraph. Sadie Crowell ran a finger down her log. "Your code again," she said. "RK27. Noon wire from Royce to Stack. Tonight, usual cut." "What hour?" "After close." Wren leaned in. "Stack keeps a side book, not in the till. The till squeaks. He hides it where his hand falls when he lies. Blue oil ring on the second shelf right of the rye. Tea tin." Ledger rolled inside, corner clipped by a bent nail head. "Wire, Jed?" Sadie asked. "Not yet," I said. "Let the fish open his own mouth." We bought lamp wicks and 6 pennies. Stack watched from his stool, knife worrying a plug. His eyes slid over Wren like a scale. She didn't glance back. Doc May came out of the alley. "Fever gone?" "Gone," I said. She nodded. "Write what you claim to stand for," she told me. "Date it, sign it, not for romance, for memory." Back home, the wind laid down. We set the porch table, lamp, nibs, a flat stone. I wrote plain as fence law, "This house keeps 2 beds and 1 rule. No one owns anyone. If paper says different, paper is wrong. Witnessed by neighbors, to be read aloud when needed." I dated it, signed it, left space for Jed, Ruth, and Sadie. Wren read it once with her lips, then again without sound. She touched the line about beds and nodded like a hinge had set. "Teach me the bay's trot," she said. We took the lower loop. Sage wore frost like thin smoke. The sky held that Zane gray stillness that makes a man hear his own heart. The bay jigged at a rabbit. Wren laughed, quick and surprised. Back at the yard, I set the bell rope in her hand. Ring it. 2 short, 1 long. The sound carried clean over the willows. Neighbors know, I said. Jed, too. She stood quiet. Silence used to be a cage, she said. Here it's a room with a window. It's a border, I said. We keep it so both sides can breathe. Dusk bled slow. I banked the stove while she stitched my coat collar. We ate stew and split an apple. When the lamp burned low, I set the broken spur by the sheriff's copy of the torn page. Tonight, I said. She tied her hair with a strip of rag and checked the small knife she kept in cloth. Second shelf, tea tin, blue ring, she said. Stack drinks till his eyes cross. Then he counts. We go quiet, take what counts, and bring it to a porch that knows what to do with it. And if he wakes, we leave with our feet and return with the law, she said. No one gets owned. No one gets killed if a choice can stop it. I looked through the door gap at the yard, pale under the moon. Somewhere a rider laid a circle I could not see yet. The bell rope hung still, a promise not yet called on. I doused the lamp and let the dark take shape. The house breathed. We listened. We had 3 things a man like Royce can't buy: a rule carved, a town within earshot, and time enough to use both. That would have to be enough, for now. So, night settled like a lid of iron. We waited till Stack's lamps died and the last boots dragged off. I tied my scarf, Wren knotted a rag at her neck, and we slid down the alley where barrels sweated rye. A tomcat slipped the woodpile without a sound. Second shelf, she breathed. Tea tin, blue ring. I lifted the back window with a thin blade. The room smelled of molasses and tobacco. We went in clean. Wren paused, hand up, then moved along the wall where bottles stood like men on payday. There it was, the blue halo on a dented tin. She set it on the counter and popped the lid. Paper rolled tight sat inside. A narrow ledger, corners chewed by damp. 1 page gone to a neat V as if a rat had manners. Got it, she said. A chair scraped. Stack filled the doorway, hair wild, eyes red from whiskey, club in hand. You think you're clever, he said. Only tired, I told him. He stared at Wren. You talk pretty for stock. She placed the tin like she paid for lamp wicks. You talk cheap for a neighbor who sells neighbors. That book is mine. No, Wren said. It belongs to everyone you priced. He jabbed the club into my chest. Holloway, you gone saint? Just stubborn. Old Zeb Packer coughed in the back. Leave off, Orville. I bunked here 2 winters. You kept 2 books, freight and bodies that couldn't argue. I hauled RK-27 crates from Royce to you and back. You clipped corners with that bad nail. Wren rolled the page open. Ink, fine. Code, plain. RK-27, she read. Dates, initials for names. Price beside each. Salt, lamp oil, 1 bottle rye, and a woman marked WT. That's me. It's just letters, Stack muttered. It's people, Zeb said. Pride stiffened him. You can't prove where that page came from. The cut proves it, I said. Jed will match it to a writ clipped the same. The spur says your boy leaned on my rail. Sadie's wire pins your dates. Run to your porch court, he sneered. Royce will bring district teeth. Teeth fall out, Wren said. Law grows new ones when neighbors stand. He came quick, club up. I caught his wrist, set the stick on the plank. No one needs a doctor tonight, I said. He tested me, felt I meant it, and let the fight drain. Take your paper and choke on it. We'll breathe with it, Wren said, sliding the ledger into her coat. She looked him in the eye till he looked at the floor. We backed to the window. Boots rasped faint in the alley. Deputy Neil Tanner stood in shadow, hat pushed back, hands empty. He didn't ask. He didn't help. He watched. Evening, Neil, I said. Evening. Weather's due to turn. Let it, Wren answered. We left without hurry. Behind us the door clicked, a tired sound. Zeb fell in step. "Hate to see a town sell itself," he said. "Then help buy it back," Wren told him. "I aim to. Judge or no judge, folks remember who rang first." We took the long way home. The moon was a shaved coin. Sage brushed our boots. At the porch the rope hung quiet, as if holding its breath. "Tomorrow," I said. "Tomorrow." We laid the page beside the broken spur and the sheriff's copy, a small country of proof growing on our table. I set a flat stone across them and listened to the fire tick. Wind went along the eaves, not unkind now, only curious. "Sleep," I said. "For once," Wren said. "That sounds like a plan I can keep." I let the dark come. The bell did not ring. In the hush, the truth we'd taken from liquor's shadow found its weight and waited, where a town could find it when called. The house breathed slow. Our nerve held. We set a table on the porch at noon. Lamp, stone, the torn page, the broken spur. Neighbors came quiet. Wren stood by the post, the bell rope loose in her palm. I rang twice, then once long. Sheriff Jed Harmon climbed the steps and read the lintel. "Ears and eyes," he said. Old Zeb Packer raised a hand. "Hauled RK-27 crates from Royce to Stack and back. Stack clips corners with a bent nail. Widow Ruth McCrae poured tea. Zeb bunked at my livery. He hid that book in a blue ring tin." She touched the V-bite. "Been waiting to fit the right lie." Doc May Parrish set out a neat sheet. "Bruises, frost cuts, fever. Dates logged." Sadie Crowell brought a wire log. "RK-27 bounces between Royce and Stack on the same days." She tapped columns. "Times to the minute." Jed studied each piece and then the spur. He measured it to Bo Randall's heel by sight. "Twins missing," he said. Orville Stack muttered, "Gossip." Wren stepped forward. "You cut corners on paper like fat-off meat. WT is me. Lines talk when a person answers them." Jed nodded. "Chain reads clean, wire codes, torn ledger, writ clipped the same, a spur left where it shouldn't be, and a witness with breath, enough to open Royce's back room." Deputy Neil Tanner said, "You'll start a brush fire." "The district can write later," Jed answered. "Today's for neighbors." "Royce brings paper with teeth," Neil said. "I'll check the gums for life," Jed said. Wren set her hand on the table. "We want a warrant, not a war." "Royce runs lean before sundown," Sadie said. "That's when he ships lies." "Ruth, Sadie, Zeb, signed statements," Jed said. "Jace, keep this porch steady. Miss Talbot, you owe nobody a story." "I'll speak what's mine," Wren said. "I signed our porch rule. Jed signed under it, square and slow. Dust rose from the south. 6 riders came easy. The one in front wore a black coat and a smile you could fold into a deed book. Royce Kincannon reigned at the gate. "Afternoon. I've come for my property." He unfolded a fresh writ with a bright seal, corner clipped just so. "Bring the clerk," Jed said. "I brought men," Royce answered. Bo and Ike swung down. 2 more flanked us. The rope trembled against Wren's wrist. She didn't ring it. "You can throw a half-moon of horses out here," I said, "but the step is the line." Royce read the plank. "No trespass beyond this step." "Lines move," he said. "Not this one," Wren told him. "Miss Talbot," he said, sweet as syrup. "Paper says you owe." "I read fine," she said. "I'm not for sale." He let the smile die. "We come back at dusk. Bring her out, or we bring her out." They turned the lane and were gone. No one moved for a breath. Jed tilted his hat. "We'll see who owns evening. Keep a lamp trimmed. Ring if they cross so much as a toe." Neighbors peeled to posts and sheds. Ruth slid a box of shells onto our table. Zeb tightened the chain. Sadie checked the rope and nodded. Wren set coffee to boil. I laid the rifle down, muzzle low. We stacked proof where hands could reach. The ledger with its V, the false writ, the wire log, the spur missing its twin. Jed watched the road. Light thinned. Whatever happens, Jed said, no one fires till a boot crosses that plank. Wren touched the lintel. No one owns anyone, she read, slow and firm. We drank coffee that tasted like iron and waiting. The bell hung still. A horse blew far off. A nail creaked as the porch took our weight. We had hours and a town within earshot. Enough to set our rule, count our friends, and meet dusk standing up. Dusk came thin as skillet smoke, lamps low. The bell rope lay quiet on Wren's wrist. Sheriff Jed stood at the rail, hat level. Horses showed first. 12.5 moon, torches lying about the dark. Royce Kincannon sat the center. Bo Randall and Ike Travers flanked him. Royce smiled. Evening, neighbors. We'll have the woman now. Jed's voice was clean. This is a lawful porch. No one crosses the plank without leave. Law's in my hand, Royce said, lifting a writ with a cherry seal. Bring a breathing judge, Jed answered. Paper alone's a scarecrow. Bo edged close and leaned on the corner rail. You going to let a few words stop a circle of men? I held the rifle muzzle low. Words built this fence. Step back. Wren stepped into the lamplight. I don't belong to you. Royce let the smile die. Your debt. I was a person before your ink and after, she said. Write that down. He flicked 2 fingers. Riders crept forward. Jed raised a palm. Cross that plank and I call you armed intruders. First boot buys a cell. Royce laughed, brittle. You can't jail a dozen. Don't have to, Jed said. Just the first that steps wrong. I lifted the broken spur. Bo, you dropped something the night you bled on my rail. His heel rang. The mate chimed. Jed's eyes slid from boot to post to V-cut writ to ledger. Chains tight, codes, corners, and a man sloppy with spurs. Riders muttered. Torches spit resin. Wren read the lintel. No one owns anyone. Shut her mouth, Ike said. Come try, Wren told him. Royce changed tack. Trade then. Horse for the girl. Cash for quiet. A favor when you need it. We need truth, I said, and daylight. A torch popped, throwing sparks. One died on the step. Jed watched it blink out. Put those brands down, he said, or I count fire as threat. Royce pinched his mouth and tipped his chin. Torches lowered but stayed lit. Last ask, he said, give her or we take her. Dear Wren gave the bell 2 short, 1 long. The sound traveled, it rang out. From fields came boots and low voices. Shadows lined our fence. The Delacies, Hank, Ruth with a widow's shotgun, Sadie with her wire log. More neighbors drifted in, hats low, rifles down. Jed didn't smile. Looks like the county heard your last ask. Royce weighed the porch and the step where his first boot must fall. You're buying a war, he said. We're paying for peace, Wren answered. Bo shoved his horse to the rail. The mate's spur flashed. The broken one in my hand looked back like a twin that knew better. He eased off. Royce tucked the writ. Fine, we'll read this in town where a clock and a clerk keep score. Blue Mesa Courthouse will suit, Jed said. Morning after next. Royce gathered his half-moon with 2 small words. They drew off, torches painting the road with false day. We watched the dark take them, neighbors loosened shoulders. Ruth set a tin of shells on the table. Sadie tucked the bell back to its easy loop. Jed blew through his pipe stem. You held line, he said. We kept a room for silence, Wren said. It did the rest. The yard felt bigger again. I set the broken spur by the ledger and laid a flat hand on both. Next is Box Elder, Jed said. Royce will try to move whatever proves him guilty before sunup. Wren looked at the bell. 2 short, 1 long. And we ring if shadows grow legs, I told her. Wind turned soft. Lamps burned steady. We let the night sit with us till it stopped shaking, then banked the fire and left the porch as we found it. Clean, true, ready for morning. Morning wore a bruise color. We mended what night bent and drank coffee. The bell rope lay ready. Jed rode to town with Zeb to file statements. Wren squared the ledger and set the broken spur on the table. Boots in the lane. Deputy Neil Tanner, hat low, hands open. "Don't reach," I said. "Wasn't planning to," he answered. "I came to quit drowning." He eyed the lintel. "That line true?" "It's the only kind worth carving," I said. He put a brass key down. "Back room of Royce's saloon. Same key fits the freight office by the alley. Inside is an iron box with a starbite hasp." "What's in it?" "Seals, red wax, writ blanks, a counterfeit district stamp, and the big ledger. The moving page lives at Stacks." "Why hand it to me?" "I owe too much," he said. "Cards, not whiskey. Royce owns the note and rents my fear." "Tell Jed," I said. "I will if I walk in with you and lay hands on the proof. I want it said I chose the turn." Jed came back early, saw Neil, didn't blink. "Clean or dirty?" "Dirty, and choosing soap." "Terms?" "Charge me after I help you take the box alive. Spare my mother the talk that I ran." Jed weighed him. "All right, you carry the lantern and go first." Wren watched his hands. "Who else?" "Zeb for wagons," Jed said. "Sadie for wires, Jace for doors. And me," Wren said. "You don't have to," Jed told her. "I'm done being counted. I'll count." Plan set. Sadie keeps wire and picks what the key won't. Zeb drifts the alley with a mule and tarp. Jed stands to read law the instant the box opens. My job is door and time. Wren reads the books. She smells cooked numbers. "Tonight," Neil said, "an hour after close." We sent Neil by the creek. Jed rolled his pipe. "You trust him?" "I trust shame," I said. "It makes men straighter when it hurts right." Wren let the bell rope fall. "We take the box, not his breath." "That's the rule." Wren pinned 3 lines under the rule. "I stand free. I stand here. I will speak." She sewed while the house learned our quiet. Dark came. We walked 2 and 2. Sadie met us behind the saloon with a hairpin. "Clock says he's gone," she whispered. Neil tried the alley door. The key turned. The back room smelled of wax, lamp oil, money. "Box," Neil said. Under a blanket roll we found black iron with a star-cut hasp. The key fit. Sadie held the lantern. Jed watched time. Neil turned the key. The lock kissed and moved. A second tongue held. "Hairpin," Sadie breathed. Her hands worked patient. The inner catch eased. Inside lay seals, red sticks, a judge's stamp cut backward, and a ledger fat as a Bible. Wren didn't touch. "Left-handed when he rushes," she said, pointing at sagged ink. "Same V-cuts, same hand." "Take the book," Jed said. "Leave the mess he made. Carry the one he fears." Neil wrapped the ledger in burlap. I set the stamp where lamplight could study its lie. "Enough?" "Enough to wake a county," Jed said. A floorboard spoke from the hall. One soft complaint. Wren's eyes went to the door. Neil shut the box and pinched the lantern dark. The room kept only breath. Royce's voice slid under the sill, smooth, not winded. "Funny thing about clocks," he said. "They tell me who's late. Boot heels, more than 2. A key turned up front. We had the ledger in a sack, and a room with one back door and a new reason to use it." "Window," Wren whispered. "Hold steady," Jed said. The latch lifted. Light pushed like a knife. Someone laughed low. We were not the only ones with a key tonight. Outside, a chain clicked and went still, as if the alley held breath. The latch lifted and Royce's lamp slid a knife of light across the floor. We were 5 shadows and 1 breath. Neil eased the ledger sack to me. Jed's hand hovered, palm open, ready to read law. The second law had room. Royce stepped in with Bo Randall and 2 more. Evening, he said. You brought your porch to town. Bo grinned at Wren. Paper says you're coming home. Wren didn't move. Paper lies when men hold the pen backward. Royce's lamp found the open iron box on the bench. Its star-cut hasp turned like a tooth pulled. He looked at the stamp, the red wax, the writ blanks stacked clean. You thieves. Officers, Jed said, voice level. This room contains counterfeit seals and an illegal book. Step aside. Royce lifted a pistol. Step out. Lower it, I said, rifle down but ready. Nobody has to bleed. Bo flipped a creek knife. Somebody does. He lunged. I snapped a shot low. The knife jumped from his hand and chattered under the cot. Jed moved like a door shutting. Neil stepped into Bo's space, spun him, slapped irons on with a clack that sounded like a man choosing. Royce fired at the dark to make it panic. Wren blew the lamp. Night swallowed flame. Sadie slid past me like water and cracked the back door. Zeb's mule snorted outside. Tarp ready. Out, Jed ordered. Sack first. I shoved the ledger into Wren's arms. She hugged it tight to her ribs and went through the door. Sadie next with the counterfeit stamp wrapped in burlap. Zeb took both and tucked them under the tarp. Royce reloaded by feel. You won't carry my house out under my nose. Watch us, Wren said from the alley. He fired once more. The ball buried in the box with a dull bell. Neil kicked the doorstop free. I shouldered the frame, shoved the heavy box back into the corner, and let its weight say, stay. A rider clattered out front. Boss! Royce backed toward the saloon's main hall. Ike, cut them off. He saw the empty alley and chose speed over pride. Hitch the freight rig. Box elder now. Bo cursed in the irons. You said no running. Royce didn't answer. He slipped through the front like a weasel through slats. We hit the alley all at once. Wren climbed onto the wagon and pressed the ledger flat under the tarp. Sadie tucked the stamp beside it. Zeb took the lines. Jed shoved Bo face first into a rain barrel and left him soaking like bad rope. Neil, Jed said, you're with me. Jace, flanks with Zeb. Miss Crowell, ride to the telegraph and wire Blue Mesa. Counterfeit seal, ledgers in hand. Suspect fleeing north by Box Elder Pass. Sadie ran, light and sure. Neil wiped his mouth with the back of his sleeve. I'm clean, he said. Stay that way, Wren told him. We swung onto our horses as Royce's freight wagon shot from the street like a bad promise. 2 grays throwing sparks. He carried weight, another box or cash or both. He whipped the team and aimed for the north road. Go, Jed said. We went. The town fell behind. Sage cut our knees. The road pitched up to the pass, a rutted vein in the dark. Stars were cold holes. Our breath showed and was gone. Zeb's mule held steady with the proof under tarp. I rode outside him to catch any shot thrown blind. Wren crawled forward on the wagon bed and tied the ledger down with a strip torn from her skirt. Stay, she told it as if paper had ears. Ahead, Royce's rig slewed on the first switchback. He was strong-handed and impatient, a mix that breaks more than it makes. A trunk skidded in his box, thumped the side, and told us it was heavy. Jed, I called, he's hauling more lies. That or the teeth he promised to bring, Jed said. Wind rose at the cut, not wild, just enough to carry a voice. Wren cupped her hands and shouted, Royce, you said you'd read it in daylight. Try it. His answer was the crack of a whip and a curse. A bend took him near the drop. The lead gray lost footing and lunged. Royce hauled and saved it hard, then lost the line to the near mule for a step and had to grab leather with both hands. The rig fish-tailed, righted, pounded on. Piece by piece, Jed said. He's peeling his own hide. At the second shelf of road, the grade steepened. Royce tried to shift weight by brake, forgot the pin, and the lever jumped. The freight wagon pitched and settled wrong. He cursed again and kept whipping. We closed. Neil called, Bows spur, Jed. Tell him where his man bled. Jed didn't waste breath. At the last hairpin before the saddle, I roped the tailboard. The rope sang. Royce felt the drag and cut at it with a short blade. Wren crawled to the wagon lip, grabbed my rope, and wrapped it once around a bolster pin. "Hold," she said to me and to the rope both. It held. The tailboard gave, then locked. The freight slowed enough for Jed to draw alongside and show Royce his own writ. V-cut. Dead judge. "End of the page," Jed said. Royce threw the knife. It clipped Jed's sleeve and spun into the dark. We had him where the road narrows and the sky sits low. He could choose the drop or the stop. He chose neither. He chose fury and slammed the brake. The rig bucked. The trunk inside leapt like a live thing and punched the sideboard out. Paper fanned up and flew. Writ blanks, signed and unsignable, torn by cold wind into white birds that would not land for him again. Royce saw, and something in him sagged. He gathered what pride would, snatched the reins, and cracked them once more. "Box Elder," he yelled into the night as if distance could change names. "Box Elder," Jed said back, steady. "We'll call it in the morning." We topped the saddle with rope humming and Royce's rig ahead. The shelf narrowed to rock and drop. "Ease your hand," Jed called. "Cart or cliff, choose." Royce hauled the grays and saw Zeb's mule wagon square across the shelf. Tarp bulged with what he thought hidden. He clawed under seat for a pistol. Neil slid in, knocked the barrel aside, and pinned his wrist to the rail. "Don't make me earn this badge the ugly way," Neil said. Royce sneered. "You think I wrote the world? I just read what men pay for." Wren stood on our wagon board, hair held by the wild rose comb, ledger roped to her hip. "Read this," she said, tapping the sack. "Your marks, your cuts, my initials, say it plain. Who clipped the corners? Who pressed a dead judge's seal?" Wind shoved the words back at him, but they stuck. Pride tried to lift his chin. Fear set it down. "RK-27, he said. "Royce Kincannon, 27 cents a head. To keep the paper moving. Stack clipped. I sealed. Judges signed when drink was right." He gulped. "WT went through me twice." "Twice?" Jed asked. "Stack shorted his note. I sold it again." He looked at me, then at Wren. "Profit lives where no one checks a ledger against a face." "Blue Mesa will check," Jed said, "and the face will speak." Bo Randall groaned in the irons Zeb had cinched. "Boss, quit talking." Royce looked at the edge and learned how narrow a man can be. He let the reins drop. Jed took them and set the brake true. The grays blew and stood. "Royce Kincannon," Jed said, level as plumb. "You're under arrest for forgery, trafficking in the manner of debt, assault, and flight. You'll stand before Blue Mesa in the morning." "You'll never keep a jury awake past lunch," Royce spat. "Then we'll feed them proof," Wren said. Sadie rode up the grade, pencil out. She squared to the wind and took it down in clerk hand. "Say it again," she told him. He did, word for word. Sadie read it back, dry as fence posts. Jed and Zeb witnessed with their names. We turned toward town. At the first wide spot, Jed checked hands for powder and blood. "Alive," he said. "That matters." Wren rubbed the grays' throats. "No one owns anyone," she told them, and they gentled. We rode by starlight and snowlight, the pass behind us and morning beginning as a rumor down the grade. At the creek, we met 3 neighbors who had taken the bell's sound and come looking. They fell in and firmed our edges. Orville Stack stood at the bridge, hat in hand, eyes on the sack. He tried to calculate whether luck or guilt could buy him. He found none. "Leave him for morning," Jed said. "Sun does more work on men like that than sermons." By the cottonwoods of Blue Mesa, the town heard our wheels. Doors opened, a dog barked twice and quit. Ruth went ahead to warm the courthouse stove. Sadie peeled to the wire to send our minutes. Neil kept pace, jaw set to being the man he said he'd be. We pulled short of the square. Jed faced Wren. "You sure?" She touched the lintel rule folded in her pocket. Then the sack. Then the faces that had stood on our boards when the half-moon came. "I'll speak," she said, "because I don't belong to what tried to price me." Royce laughed. "County won't print your kind of truth." "Then the county can reacquaint itself with its own face," Jed said. We rolled in as the clock coughed up the hour. A clerk in a wool vest saw the irons and the burlap and started stacking docket sheets like firewood. He nodded us in. Morning had teeth, and for once they were ours. The courthouse smelled of coal and wet wool. We set the burlap on the clerk's table. Judge Horace Bell took the chair, pale eyes steady. "Call it." Jed laid the chain like a fence. The writ clipped to a V with a dead judge's name. Sadie's wire log. Stack's tea-tin ledger with the same bite. The iron box book, ink slanting left when the hand hurried. The broken spur and its twin on Beau's boot. Doc May's notes. Zeb's freight entries. Ruth's drawer. My porch rule signed. Royce sat between deputies. Orville's stack hunched like a post rotted at ground line. Neil Tanner stood behind Jed, badge dull but clean. "Mr. Holloway," the judge said, "your rule." I read it as lived. 2 beds, 1 line, no one owns anyone. If paper says different, paper is wrong. Wren stood. "WT on the small ledger is me. I was held without lawful writ, priced like lamp oil, pressed into a debt I never signed. I stand free." Sadie took the rail. Big code RK-27 ran between Kincannon and Stack, on dates matching freight. Times are in my hand. Doc May laid her page. Frost cuts, hoof bruise, fever. Dates align with the storm folks recall. Zeb said, hauled RK-27 crates to Stack, and once to the saloon. Orville clips corners with a bent nail. That V is his. Ruth said, "Tea-tin was mine to dust. The book hid there." Jed lifted Beau's heel. Metal rang. "The mate was found at Holloway's fence the night these men circled his porch." The judge looked to Royce. Wren nodded. Sadie read her shorthand. Corners cut, seal pressed. A dead judge's name dragged. WT passed twice. "Kincannon?" the judge asked. Royce tried a smile and found none. "I sold notes like men do when there's trade." "You forged a court," the judge said. "You trafficked under color of debt. You set armed men at a citizen's step." He turned to Orville. Stack stared at the floor. "I got tired of losing. Then you sold what wasn't yours." Neil cleared his throat. "I helped take the box and bring it here. Let my record show the turn." "It will," Judge Bell said. "You'll answer for before and be measured by after." He wrote. The stove clicked. "Bench," he said. "All counterfeit writs void. The false seals seized. Kincannon bound over for trial on forgery, trafficking, assault. Stack bound on conspiracy and unlawful restraint. Randall on assault and trespass. Deputy Tanner suspended pending review, released to the sheriff on recognizance for cooperation. The court recognizes Miss Wren Talbot as a free citizen of this county. Let the record show it." Wren stepped to the desk and set down a sheet she'd folded to steady her hand. The clerk read, "I was not saved like a thing fetched. A door stood open long enough for me to walk through. I chose to stand. I choose to speak. I belong to no one, and now I choose this town that answered a bell." No one clapped. Folks don't clap for weather breaking. They breathe. Jed coiled the proof like a good rope. Slow, no kinks. He signed for the box and books. Sadie filed copies. Ruth touched Wren's shoulder. Zeb said, "That'll ride." Sadie smiled once, small as a notch, then squared the docket. The judge rose. "We'll see this at trial, but not darker. Court is adjourned." On the square, the light looked like work. Wren's wild rose comb caught it. She slipped my porch rule into her pocket like a map that brought her true. "I'll keep it," she said. "Keep me honest with it," I told her. "Deal," she said. We walked for Cotton Rock with the county at our backs and morning in our hands. Behind us, one door shut and another opened. Summer settled on Cotton Rock, plain and merciful. Boards warmed under a decent sun, and hands knew where to set nails. Hank brought 6 pennies, the DeLacys hauled paint. Ruth laid sandwiches, Zeb led a mule. Sadie came with a board. Jed set his badge and took a brace and bit. Wren primed the pump till water ran true. I strung lines, neighbors sank holes where the twine said. Ruth found the wild rose comb. "You keeping this?" Wren smiled. "I can wear it without bracing now." "Then it did its job," Ruth said, laying it in her palm. We ran a short fence along the kitchen side. The bell rope swung once. No alarm, just a house remembering. Near noon, Sadie took the porch. "One more line," she said, reading the county note. "Seals seized, writs void, Royce and Stack bound over." She added, "Wren Talbot, free as entered." Wren wrote her name steady. "Printer's trick," Sadie said, dusting the ink with flour. "You held a porch hearing for trouble," Jed said. "Hold one for peace." So we set bread, onions, coffee, and Ruth's jar of peaches saved from spring. Wren stood by the post where the rope hung. Sun found the comb in her hair. I read the rule I'd carved. 2 beds, 1 truth. No one owns anyone. If paper says different, paper is wrong. I tapped the plank below. No trespass beyond this step. Then I raised a board I'd lettered. "This porch stays open." "Open how?" Hank asked. "Open to neighbors, to law, to a fair word," I said. "Closed to buying souls." Jed laid his hand on the rail. "Witnessed." Wren looked at me, then the crowd. "I was a number men traded. I'm not a number now. A door stayed open long enough for me to walk through. I'll keep it open for others with a line that keeps harm back." Jace didn't reach past decent. That mattered. We ate. Coffee passed. The peaches went last, a spoon each. After, we painted the new board. Wren's hand was sure. She signed the bottom. W.T. Jed hung the bell a shade left. "Rings better," he said, "when it's not in the way of elbows." The yard looked honest, rails level, pump smooth, porch swept. I faced Wren. Sawdust lay fine in our palms. "Walk with me," I said. We stepped into cottonwood shade. I said what I had, plain as fence law. "I can't promise what tomorrow pays. I can promise where I'll stand. On this porch, under that rule, at your side. I won't own you. I won't let anyone try. If you'll have me, let's keep a house where doors open and lines hold." She didn't hurry. She set her hand in mine. "Sure." "I choose you," she said, "not for rescue, for every day." We turned back. Neighbors were close enough to pretend they hadn't heard. Jed cleared his throat. Ruth wiped an eye. Sadie wrote nothing. Some things stay bigger unwritten. Wren lifted the rope and gave it voice. 2 short, 1 long. The sound rode the draw and settled in fences we didn't own, but would help mend if asked. It didn't call trouble. It called belonging. I drove the last nail in the open sign. Evening laid a soft hand over the rails. The bay nosed my shoulder like he'd bought a share. We sat when the light went gold. Wren leaned against me, not because she had to, because she wanted to. The bell hung easy. The rule over the door didn't feel like defense anymore. It felt like a pledge. Stars waited their turn. The house was a home, the ranch a beginning, and we, by our hands and the hands that showed when the rope sang, were a family, not born of bargain but of choice that holds in fair weather and in blow. Sun went down. The porch kept the last of it, warm as a promise a man means to keep. If this story touched you, I'd be grateful to hear what part stayed with you most. Your words keep the fire warm long after the tale is told.